How to build mental strength. Information from this presentation is taken from Harvard Business Review. So, our mental state is a continuum. Okay? Everyone possesses it in some way, just like physical strength. Some tend to be on the weaker end, some tend to be on the stronger end. People are not really either mentally strong or mentally weak. They just have a certain amount of mental strength. We can choose to become stronger. There's always room for improvement. The choices we make, the exercise we do, the lifestyle we choose determines this. It is all about achieving our full potential. It's a problem when we don't achieve our full potential, and that's because it's usually our mindset holding us back. We all know there are certain things that we can be doing, but we choose not to do them for whatever reason. What is causing us to not take these steps that we want to take? That's something that we have to ask ourselves. So, what is it to be mentally strong? There's a big difference between being mentally strong and acting tough. Those people who act tough tend to say things like failure isn't an option. Okay? But that's not being mentally strong. Being mentally strong is identifying that failure may actually happen, but you are strong enough to deal with it no matter what happens. So, let's just say you're applying for a new job or you're trying to get a promotion. Okay? It's not always about thinking positive and hoping that it will go your way. Okay? Because there is a chance that it may not go your way. It's about realistically remembering that it may not work out for you, but that you are strong enough to handle it, whatever happens. Mental strength starts with overcoming anxiety. Now, anxiety is a complex thing. It's an emotion. It's part of us. It's a complex emotion that many people misunderstand, maybe misuse, maybe misinterpret. I don't want to say there's a right or wrong way, okay? But anxiety is part of us. It is one of our emotions. And to be honest, to an extent, it is there to help us feel safe. It's meant to keep us safe, okay? So let's just say if you didn't have any anxiety, when crossing the road, you wouldn't either think about looking both ways. The anxiety of something happening will cause you to be extra cautious before making that decision to cross the road. So let's just say you're being chased by a lion, right? Anxiety will trigger in almost immediately, and you know you have to run for your life. It's just about recognizing that when we get anxiety, when it happens, and how we should deal with it. But what's happening now, okay, as people, we have started to confuse this a little bit. We're confusing social rejection and small failures and thinking that they are dangerous, as if we're getting chased by a lion. Okay? Some people might say it's not that deep. In the world today, the dangers that we experience include social risk or financial risk. It's not going to be a thing that we're worried about being chased down by a lion, isn't it? But our brains seem to have these false alarms. You don't want that alarm to go off in your brain for every little thing that brings you a bit of anxiety, such as asking for a pay rise at work or going for an interview, because it's difficult. This is why your heart tends to beat faster, your hands get sweaty, or some people might say, I'm getting heart palpitations, okay? It's about being aware and recognizing that you are not, in fact, in danger, even though your mind or your body thinks that you are. Just because you feel that way, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the risk. This is where kind of reverse engineering how our mind thinks comes into play. So, what you need to do is get uncomfortable. Building mental health is about doing things that challenge you. In the gym, to build physical strength, you need to keep on lifting heavier weights when you're comfortable. If you're finding the weights okay and manageable, then you need to start cracking it up a notch and picking the heavier weights, okay? You want to be uncomfortable so that you know you're progressing. When you become uncomfortable, you should move on to the next uncomfortable thing, because this shows progress and growth instead of staying in one spot. Everyone's different. For most people, public speaking is terrifying, but for some people, it's not that big a deal. So everyone has their own uncomfortable thing to do. It's about facing that. So I'm going to leave you with 3 tips. Ask yourself, what are some small things that you can do to challenge yourself? So tip number 1, maybe strike up a conversation with someone, or go to a networking event and strike up a conversation with someone there. Yeah, something that you're not used to doing. Tip number 2, maybe speak up 2 or 3 times in every meeting or class that you go to. Yep, so raise up your hand, ask a question, share an opinion. Tip number 3, maybe respond to emails and say no, because you tend to be a people pleaser. Okay, so these are small things that you can do to challenge yourself, to get you to that state of uncomfortable, to get used to it and know that you're kind of moving on. Step out your comfort zone until it does not become scary anymore. Train your brain to think differently. So I mentioned about reverse engineering, how we think. The more you challenge yourself, the stronger you realize you are. Train your brain to see yourself as a more capable and more competent than you think you are. Okay? Your brain will naturally talk yourself out of doing anything that is uncomfortable. Your brain wants you to stay in your comfort zone. When you do those things, even though your brain is saying not to, your brain will eventually begin to shift and start thinking, maybe I actually can do these things. When you train your brain to think differently, it becomes easier because your brain will stop trying to talk it out of doing anything that is uncomfortable. How to handle feeling sad in a healthy way. When things don't work out our way, we think we can't handle it. Or instead, maybe thinking, how can I handle feeling sad or feeling disappointed? There's always room for improvement. Always challenge yourself and find new things. Maybe even things you find tough. Think, how can I get better or get stronger mentally? Always stay a little bit uncomfortable, just enough, so that you know you're always working at growing, learning, and building better mental muscle.